Hey everybody, is expensive lenses and sharp images overrated? Let's talk about it. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, this channel is dedicated to sort of thinking out of the box creatively in photography and as a photo artist. But before we get started with today's topic, if you could do me a favor, and that is like this video. It helps. It actually helps with the algorithm to share this out in the YouTube world. And also subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, which is about once a week, you'll get notified on that. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump into our sharp lenses and sharp images overrated. Because, boy, I tell you, I got that pounded into my head when I started photography way back in like 2005, and you need to spend money on good glass. Well, is that true or not? Well, in a lot of cases, it is. In other cases, it is not. So I'm going to talk about some lenses that I actually use. I'll explain where I use them and why I don't use expensive glass and tack sharp glass. That's a no-no for me, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But let's talk about why do we have this pounded into our head about sharp, getting all this tack sharp glass and stuff like that. And images are becoming too digital looking. And when a lot of people want, like me, a lot of times on certain types of photography, I want more of an analog look. And if I'm doing portrait work, as an example, or even shooting models and stuff, the last thing they want to see is every single nook and cranny and pore on their face, which means I got to jump into Photoshop or your favorite editing software and get in there and soften things up and use certain techniques. And that's too time consuming. I got better things to do than waste my time doing that. So I minimize that by choosing the correct lenses when I'm doing my photography. And again, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. By the way, let's talk about sharpness. And if you ever heard of, I had to write all this stuff down, Henri Cartier-Bresson, a French photographer, well known for his street photography, actually made a statement that sharpness is totally overrated. There's another gentleman I happened to be at a workshop a few years ago, and his name is Joe McNally. If you haven't heard of Joe, or know of him, I'll put a link here in the show notes that you can actually go to his website, take a look at his credentials and stuff. But Joe actually says, there's two types of sharpness in an image. One, they're sharp, and then there's sharp that is good enough, meaning it could be soft a little bit. It doesn't have to be so tack sharp all the time. So let me pull up his website right here. If you don't know who Joe is, I'm just going to do a quick plug for him. Here's the guy that's been around the block quite a few years and is very well recognized. He's worked with some organizations maybe you've never heard of, like, five covers for National Geographic, along with other coverages that he's done with that. How about Life Magazine? That's pretty well known. How about Sports Illustrated, Time Magazine? So again, he understands that there are times that you just don't want that, what's called a digital look. Now, in other types of maybe landscape photography, product photography, that kind of stuff, you may want that high-end digital. But boy, when it comes to portraits of people, and I don't care if it's a high school seniors or whatever you're doing, or model shoots, fashion shoots, you got to be careful on that, and you don't want to create a lot of extra work. So a lot of times these pros, they just don't tell you they're not using tack sharp lenses and expensive lenses. So I'm going to share with you the lenses that I use and why I use what I use. But before I do that, let's take a look at, let's see, I had to write again some of this stuff down. And the main problem of digital photography is it has that digital look. It's darn too sharp. So let's talk about some of the things. I found this website. I was doing some research on sharpness. Is that overrated? Which I believe it is in certain situations. But let's take a look at this, and I'll put the link to this website that you could check out. It'll be in the show notes for you. And it says, why sharpness is overrated. I'm not going to read all this stuff to you. I'm just going to hit the highlights of that. Softer lenses often have more soul. And I agree with that 100%. It's just incredible the soul that you'll get. And I'll share some images that were taken by some prominent photographers that again was the analog days, and that tack sharpness, they don't have that digital look. Analog is a totally different look. Art doesn't care about sharpness at all. Is a painting sharp? If you ever go, to a museum and you're standing back at this giant painting and stuff, it looks pretty cool. And as you walk up close, you go, "Oh my gosh, it's falling apart," because it's not a tack sharp image. Paint is a little bit on the abstract side. Blurry photos often have more emotion to it, and I agree with that. I've experienced that. Nobody can really tell the difference on the sharpness of your image on a screen. That's true. You guys are going to watch my video. That's even worse because it's compressed by YouTube, and you just can't tell. Are you shooting brick walls? I think this is funny. It says, please avoid these websites where people do sharpness tests on brick walls. Really? Do you plan on photographing brick walls for your entire life? Or are you going to photograph something that has soul with your subjects right there? Is your viewer going to see your photo on a smartphone? Really? I've never heard of a smartphone. I don't think anybody looks at images on a smartphone, do they? Really? Yeah, they do. I'm just, toying with you a little bit. They would rather have you spend money that you would on expensive lenses, and I'm talking about lenses that are $1,500 to $2,500, $100. How about spending it on inspirational books or workshops or things that improve your photography, and not something that sometimes will be fighting you? How about buy a camera with no interchangeable lens? That's going to be a topic all by itself. You mean one of these? I've got one of these. I use these a lot, and I actually shot in studio with a trigger on that in front of a group of people, showing that it's not the camera, it's what you do with the camera. And every time I do that, when I showcase images that were shot with that point and shoot camera, people can't tell the difference between that or a full frame camera. The only ones that could are the ones that were actually at the shoot and saw me shoot those images with a point and shoot. But trust me, even when I printed stuff, half the time I can't even remember things I shot with that point and shoot versus a full frame or even a crop sensor camera right there. So whatever camera you have, go for it. But how about the lens? Let's talk about lenses right now. So we can close out of that. And let me open up a little slide presentation before we get into things, and just show you how, our sharp lenses and images overrated. Well, let's take a little trip down memory lane here, and let's see if I can get this running here. And that is Henri Cartier-Bresson. Now, again, analog days, no digital at that time. But if you look at some of his classic images and stuff, that's slightly blurred, not that tack sharp in focus as a black and white image. Plus, there's some grain, but that's the beauty of black and white, in my opinion. That grain just gives it some soul right there. Here's another image. If you really look at this close, which again is hard to see on a screen through a video, but when I look at it, the image in the middle is very soft, and the couple on the right is a little bit more sharper, but it's not tack sharp. If that was done with a digital camera, it would have that darn digital look, and it would lose that soul. It's just too sharp. Okay, and another one of his, again, a very soft image, but very classic looking from street photography. How about David Bailey, fashion photographer back in, I believe, the 60s, 70s? David's still alive. He is in his 80s right now, not photographing, but a lot of his work is being shown in galleries, and I own a couple of his books. But when you look at this one of Mick Jagger that was done years ago, it's a nice image, but it's not tack sharp. It doesn't have that digital look. That's my point. And it's more about the soul and feeling of that image. How about this one? Look at the dynamic range in that image. If that was shot today digitally, people would be bashing at us like, "Oh, you can't make out any detail in the jacket there. It's all black. I don't see nothing." Well, again, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's all about the soul of the image. And again, this is a very soft image. It's not tack sharp. Andy Warhol, same thing. In fact, a lot of people would say, well, Looks like he used maybe a wide angle lens, and he bent over and looking into the camera, which makes his face obscure and his nose really big. That's terrible. No, it's all about the emotion and technique. And again, look at the dynamic range, right? Look at the detail that you see in his coat jacket. Nothing, right? Nothing. More of it is right here in the face and that. So you don't worry about things like that, where other people get all upset about that kind of stuff today, and they're just losing the essence of an image. How about Peter Lindbergh? I own a couple of his books. I love his work. Kate Moss, one of his favorite models that he likes to photograph and use. Again, analog, soft. It doesn't have that digital look. There's more soul and feeling to these images when you see the actual prints. There's another one of his work, and here's another one. And by the way, I've never heard of that magazine before, but he has done a lot of stuff for Vogue and other fashion magazines. And a lot of the stuff at that time was all black and white. It was all analog. And again, doesn't have that sharp digital look. And skin tends to have a little bit nice, soft look to it. Let's take a look at a photographer that you have never, ever seen before. And that is Peter Coulson, maybe. But there's another one after that you may have never heard of. But Peter Coulson, I've had the privilege of working with over 30 years. He's been in the photography industry, and fashion photography is his niche market. The guy's great. I happened to work with him for a long weekend in Chicago last year, which would have been the year 2022 in September. And Peter shoots with a low-end digital camera called Hasselblad. I'm just playing with you. Hasselblad, the lenses, very expensive camera. I think the back that he uses is a 100 megapixel back, whatever. He's been trying to get Hasselblad to come out with a 24 to 26 megapixel back, because he said it'd give him more dynamic range, better conditions under low light. He doesn't need to be shooting these big, large files. But the problem with Hasselblad is it has too strong of a digital look. So you can imagine doing this. He actually, with his Hasselblad camera, let me just show you this, will manually focus on the subject. And then right before he presses the trigger on the camera, he defocuses slightly, because if he doesn't, the picture comes out too sharp. It has a digital look, and the last thing he wants to do is to go into an editing software and have to try to fix that. He wants to get it as close as he can in the camera and minimize his workflow. So if you take a look at some of his images, again, a very analog kind of style and look. He's not a big fan of Adobe Lightroom. He's not a big fan of Capture One. He likes to use, I think it's called Focus by Hasselblad, because it gives him the look that he likes, and it's very difficult for him to do it in these other softwares. In fact, Phase One to him, and again, I'm not against Phase One, it's his style, you have to remember. He says things come across too digital. You move a slider, and for some reason, you just move it a little bit, and it goes to an extreme. And he actually shows an example of that if you follow him on YouTube. I'm an Inspire member, so I get some inside information from him that nobody else sees on a monthly basis. But I always admire his work, because watching him work and getting that emotion and look from the model, and not getting the tack sharpness on the skin where you're going to see every nook and cranny and pore and stuff like that. And models don't like that. They don't want to have to deal with that. And it just does, he does such a great job. I'm always amazed how he does this all manually with a slight defocus in the camera. And again, another one right there. Now, I know the next one you've never heard of before, and that is actually me. And here's what I had to do one time, and it's just not one time. This is happening a lot. When I do boudoir shoot, and I want that, my style is more of a black and white, but I want that analog type of look and feel. I don't want that digital look. And I don't want to spend time in Photoshop and other software trying to take care of the skin and all that kind of stuff, because things had too sharp of a look to it. And that is, again, I know this is not going to show up, but this booklet I did for this gal on a boudoir shoot, there's about 20 some shots on there. Printed, this looks analog. I mean, this does not look digital at all. And again, I'll show you how I get that look where I don't have to worry about that. And it's all about proper lens choice right there. So here's some of her images that I did. And again, no touch up on the skin at all. I was just rearranging crop, pulling up contrast a little bit to get the look that I want. But it just has that more natural analog type of feel and look. And again, it's not going to be represented through a video. It's really represented strong, on print right here. That's where you see the difference and stuff. And it seems like clients love this kind of work. And of course, they don't know what I'm doing. They just like the look. And of course, a photographer might raise his eyebrows when I tell him what kind of lens I'm using and stuff. But there we go. So this is really important for me because I want to minimize work in Photoshop or any other type of editing software right there. So those are some examples of well-known photographers, and hey, this guy right here is not that well known. So got to make the client happy. She was happy with the results of the images on this shoot. And again, a very analog type look and feel. So let's talk about lenses. And should you spend the money for very expensive lenses? Let me get out of this for right now. We don't need that. And I'm not against, before anybody gets, like, oh, there's always exceptions to rules and you need to have tack sharp lenses. Yes, I agree with you, but you don't need them in all situations. And I find that a lot of photographers, the type of photography they do, those expensive lenses and that digital look is hurting their work. And they're trying to undo stuff and spending a lot of time in Photoshop and maybe other editing software to get the look that they want, because again, it has too strong of a digital look. So I know a lot of landscape photographers, they want that digital look, and that's fine, that super sharp look. Product shots, other things. I get it. But other ones want more of that analog look and feel. So an example, one of the lenses I bought years ago on sale at a convention is a Canon, because I shoot Canons, the Nifty 50. And yes, it shoots 1.8 wide open, and it's a fixed lens. And at the time, this lens used to sell for, you can't buy it now. They don't sell this. It's the second generation. The second generation now, I think it sells for 129, and it's a little bit sharper lens than what this is. This is the original one that sold for $99 years ago. Maybe you can find it used somewhere. And I was at a convention where Canon was there, and it was on sale for $89. All the write-ups about this lens were, oh, it's not that sharp of a lens. It's a little on the soft side. Really? It's on the soft side. That's for me. That's what I want. That's what I want for my boudoir type photography. I don't want tack sharp. $89 for this. If I had to buy a new one because this broke or something and I couldn't find a used one, yeah, I would get the other one for $129. And again, it shoots 1.8, but that is irrelevant. I don't want a tack sharp lens to use. I want more of that analog type of look. Another lens I use a lot. In fact, this is what I did for that boudoir shoot. I used the Nifty 50, and I used a Tamron lens, and they don't sell this lens anymore. They have a second generation, maybe even a third generation. But this is brand new. I think it was $799 I got in a trade show. I think I got it for $749. But the cool thing about this lens, it is a 28 to 75 zoom, 2.8 all the way on this. And, again, the write-ups on this was, well, it's a cute and okay lens, but it's really not that sharp of a lens. Yay, that's what I want. So these two lenses I use on that boudoir shot I just showed you, but there's like 20-some images that went to print on that. And all the other work I do that's boudoir and portrait work with close-up stuff like that, those are my go-to lenses. I use that all the time because I don't want that digital look and have to pull back on the skin. Saves me a lot of time. Again, it's personal preference, not right or wrong. If you want to have that tech sharp digital look and you want to see all the pores and stuff like that, now you got to go in there and fix it. That's your business, not mine. But this attitude that so many people pound into, I would say, novice photographers when they're starting out. Spend the money on good glass, high-end, tack sharp. What you need to ask is why, for what reason? Because a lot of people that are saying that are assuming that you are going to be doing the same type of photography work that they are. And I hate to spoil or break the bubble here, but you know what? People shoot different venues and different types of photography. Not everybody shoots, your style. Not everybody shoots my style, right? So because I want softer lenses doesn't mean it's right for everybody. It's just a choice that I take to save a lot of time when it comes to my editing process after I cull through the images. In fact, I even got rid of my Canon 70 to 200 zoom lens, the 2.8. It's a big monster when I was shooting weddings and stuff, and I was shooting weddings with this lens. It's a Tamron lens. Again, not the sharpest lens in the world, but that's fine for me. I don't care. And this is a 35 to 150. It's light, does a great job. If I need to zoom in further, there's a 2x converter I can put on there, and all of a sudden, my 35 to 150 is now a 70 to 300 zoom. But again, I don't have to worry about the weight and the big size lens I used to have to carry around in shooting weddings. So today, this is what I use a lot right there. But again, those special times where I'm doing portraits, shooting models, and say boudoir shoots, this is the lens, the Nifty 50. And this one right here, the 28 to 75 by Tamron. But again, you can't buy these unless you find it used, because the newer version of this is a little bit more, tack sharp. And again, sharpness is not everything that we need to be concerned about all the time. So with that out of the way, hopefully you learned something. And I'm just going to throw a homework assignment out to you. But before we do that, please, again, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. That way you're notified the next time I upload a video. So again, this is all about thinking creatively out of the box. So my homework for you is, if you bought a new camera, or you've had your camera for a while, but you were one of the lucky ones that when you bought it, you bought one of those package deals that gave you a kit lens. And what is the problem with most kit lenses that people talk about? It's not as sharp. And maybe it's not just fast. In other words, I can't shoot at 1.8 or 2.8 or something like that all the way through the lenses. But now I'm questioning, Canon makes a the Nifty 50 is, $129, something like that. And they make another one, I think it's like around $400, and it's wide open, is 1.4, I believe. Yeah, 1.4. Then they have a 1.2, but it's like way over $1,000 for that. Sometimes I'm questioning with AI today, when I take a photograph and I can stick it in my editing software, I can take a 2.8 lens and make it look like I shot with a 1.4 or 1.2 lens. I don't do that often, so I don't need to go out and buy that kind of lens to get that look if I wanted to get that look. I get it. If you're doing that look a lot consistently, okay, I would buy the lens, right? But if you don't, and it's just something that you will do occasionally, I say let the AI software do that. It's unbelievable. And you know what? The average person can't even tell. They really cannot tell at all. Okay, so let's get into the homework assignment. And that is, if you were a lucky one that when you bought a camera, it came with a kit lens and you sort of threw it on a shelf somewhere, I'm going to tell you to take that lens out and get out there and work on doing some portraits and see the difference between a digital look versus an analog type style and look, to see, what you favor. And again, a guy like Peter Colson, man, he turns off, when he opens up any kind of editing software, the sliders are always turned off on sharpen. Sharpen is a big no-no with him. He does not want that. So try it, just experiment. Again, think creatively out of the box. And, my motto, and that is, literally think out of the box, but get out there and practice, shoot, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. Until next time, see ya.